Welcome into the Roundtable, 10 a.m. Eastern every Wednesday. Today is October 17th alongside Jeff, Donnie, Ian. I am Drew Martin. Going to be hitting on college football. Got a couple games, plus a Degenerate special and the NFL slate on Sunday. But first up, Ian Cameron. Follow him on Twitter at Babano. Welcome in, bud. How's it going north of the border?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Drew. I made the decision to try to pull through that end of that
Not
baseball game
going too well, I
last night,
think.
but maybe not the wisest decision I've ever made, as I couldn't last. I ended up conking out. Next thing you know, I wake up and the TV's still on and the game's over. So I actually had to go in and look on the internet and Twitter to find out how it ended. But it's the way it goes sometimes when you're dead tired. But the Dodgers found a way, tied the series up, and ready to talk football here on the round table today. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to have you on. And Jeff Nadeau next up. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. He's the big man on campus. Welcome in, Jeff. How's it going, man?
Always good, Drew. Good to talk to you and all the other cappers here on the show, the chat as well. All I have to say, Drew, rest in peace to Dennis Hoff.
Dennis Hoff, rest in peace. Donnie Rightside might have something to say. Follow him on Twitter at RightsideVP. Donnie, welcome in, bud.
Yeah, another week, another dollar here on the show. I'm getting a little bit of feedback in my ear, and I can't hear Ian, so I'll try to double talk myself in my ear right now. But good to be back on the round table to have some fun, pick out some winners. Look, NBA action last night, NHL, college football, NFL. What's not to like about this?
Yeah, for sure. NBA starting up. Are you betting the NBA, Donnie?
No.
Okay, just watching it as a fan for sure. But
Exactly.
Ian, what
Hey,
about you?
couple minutes here and there.
I will be actually
Okay.
occasionally. Occasionally, it's not an everyday sport for me. If I get something strong, I'll send it out. But it's not going to be something I'm going to war with on a day in day out basis at this time of year.
And Jeff, what about you with NBA? I know you did preseason. Are you doing the regular season as well?
I do. I don't bet every night. Like tonight, I'll bet for sure. But Donnie, I've talked with Donnie. My strategy really is, fading line moves. I don't really look at like the teams. I couldn't care less. I just really like if a team's 7 point favorites and they're getting 80% of the money and the line goes down to six, I'll take the other team. That's how I bet NBA. I think that's the way to bet NBA. Like last
Yeah,
night,
just
I went
watching.
1-1. I took the Thunder and I took the Sixers, broke even. But I'll look for one or two games, try to find those. Tonight you have a bigger slate, so that'll be fun.
Okay, and we're going to talk mostly college football and the NFL on this. I know SBR has a new show. It's pretty good. Check it out. Check the schedule. Talking to NBA betting. But guys, let's get into college football here. We got Oregon, Washington State, a big one in the Pac-12. I believe this is the first time College Game Day is going to Pullman, Washington, and it's kind of a big thing because of that flag that follows it around. Happy for the Washington State fans. That's a little side note there. So it should be a great atmosphere there in Pullman on Saturday. We got 66 and a half the total. And it looks like Washington State is the favorite here at home. I'll tell you guys, when first looking at this, I thought Oregon would be a low favorite here in Washington. This number kind of surprises me to see Washington State as the favorite. I think Oregon has the better quarterback, more talent on both sides of the ball, but I could be in the wrong. I like Oregon. Ian, what do you think about this one?
From a spot perspective, you can understand why Washington State's favored. They're off a
Mm-hmm.
bye. They're at home. It's going to be a great environment there. No question about that. Oregon, you just question ever so slightly if they can fire right back. No, go right back around again after such a massive win for them against the Washington Huskies in overtime, no less, last week. Really had to empty things out physically, mentally to pull out that win. Come back from behind as well, find a way to win that game 30-20-7. So it was a very good win for Oregon. I like what I've seen from Justin Herbert. He's played very, very good. But you could say Gardner Minshew's every bit as good on the Washington State side from a quarterback perspective. This offense has moved the ball and put up points against everybody they've played. They've seemed to even been getting better as the season progressed. Don't forget they beat a very good Utah Utes team, a very good Utah defense at home here in Pullman, 28-24. Got the against Utah, a very good Utes defense, and they still were able to move the ball in that game, outgained the Utes by 136 yards. Oregon, on the other hand, you always question, can you go on the road and do what you did at home, where you almost beat Stanford at home and you beat Washington at home? Well, they did have one road game this season, and they were impressive in it, 42-24 at Cal. This is a very difficult game for me, very difficult because I like both teams, I like both coaches, I like both quarterbacks. Going into this game, it's a pass for me, but I'm looking forward to watching it.
Hey Jeff, were you able to hear Ian very well?
I will admit that the sound was a bit choppy at times. It sounded like he, was fading a bit, possibly.
Yeah. I know Donnie said something as well. Not sure, Ian, if you have like a connection issue, but it was breaking up a little bit. Could hear you a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Jeff, what about you in this Pac-12 matchup? How are you feeling about betting Oregon, Washington State?
Yeah, I think you make an interesting point about the number. I mean, at 1.5, it was, I think about the right number. But now Washington State's a 3-point favorite. They're that solid 3-point favorite. Look, Washington State's 6-0 against the spread. They've also covered 8 straight home games in Pullman. I think Gardner Minshew's a terrific quarterback as well. He fits that offense to a T. We all know what they're going to do, move the football through the air. I don't know if Oregon can stop it. Oregon's run defense is fairly good, but I always worry about them against the pass. This should be a pretty high scoring game. I mean, I don't really see either team stopping each other. I know Washington State people will push and remember and point out that they have a high ranked defense, but a lot of that was made through bad competition that they faced. You look at since then. I mean, they faced they beat Utah, USC, and you look at the one USC game, they got shredded. I mean, they gave up 39 points in that game. They also gave up a lot of points last week to Oregon State. I would probably look over the number here. I don't know if there's a ton of stops in this game. I like Washington State. Am I ready to lay a solid 3 with them? Not really. I think it should be a fun game to watch. It'll be something I have on my TV. I like these Pac-12 type of games, but I mean, judging by what we've seen out of Oregon, we know they're going to move the ball. We know Washington State's just going to chuck it around, and I think we've seen with Washington State the one step-up game against a good team, they couldn't stop anybody. So I would probably look over the number here.
Okay, Ian makes some good points. Herbert didn't play in the matchup last year on the chat box, and also they are coming off of a bye with game day, a big atmosphere, probably the biggest game Washington State has had in my lifetime. But Donnie, how would you look to bet Oregon, Washington State?
Yeah, it should be a close game. I mean, there's no question about it for a Pac-12, Oregon, Washington State. But the one thing you have to let if you're betting from a Washington State perspective here is that, their only loss was on the road at USC, which they could have won that football game. But also they're going to get the bye week here, get 2 weeks to prepare, get ready. You're going to be at home. Maybe throw in a little bit of rain there up on the Palouse, one of those, foggy, misty type of nights. I would lean towards Washington State. The line opened up at 3, looked like it's sticking around that 3-point range. I know the majority of the money here is stacking up on Oregon, 60% to start the week. You should see some points in this game, but right now I'm going to look Washington State. I like home teams, and I like home teams rested and ready off a bye.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, off of a bye at home, they might not be the more talented team overall, but spot-wise, you got to bring it into account here with college football. We've seen it time and time again. So great.
They're also very good at home. I mean, that's obviously something I think that Donnie mentions. They're very good against the spread as well. Oregon, that's one knock on this group. They're not very good on the road. I mean, they've only been away once this year, and it didn't work out well, if I can remember correctly. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it did. They went to Cal and won, but they haven't been on the road a ton. It's been kind of a weird season. A lot of games at home. This will be a raucous atmosphere, Drew. You mentioned the game day stuff and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to look at home road splits, this is a pretty good one.
Guys, we got a big one in the Big Ten, the biggest game in the Big Ten here. Big brother versus little brother, Michigan at Michigan State. This one in East Lansing. Looks like Michigan laying 7 on the highway. Michigan State, the total is at 41. This is an interesting one to kind of break down. I think Michigan's the better team here. I think that they're kind of coming into their own. Shea Patterson at quarterback. We usually see Michigan's offense as the year goes on kind of retracting. I think they're actually growing and putting more plays in the system because they got a pretty good quarterback now. So I think Michigan's more of a bet on team. However, laying a touchdown on the road against Michigan State in East Lansing can be tough. But Donnie, what are you thinking? You looking towards Michigan or Michigan State?
But both of these guys had some emotional wins last week. You look at going on the road, Michigan State pulling out an outright victory versus Penn State, and then you flip it over to the other side when you take a look at. I'm sorry because I'm getting like triple talk in my ear, so I'm going to be jumbling some of these words and numbers here coming up. Michigan with the big win against Wisconsin last week. So I mean, make a long story short, just give me the break here. I'm sorry about this.
All right. No, if you need to hop off and hop back on, that's fine as well.
I don't
what's going on.
I don't know if that's the problem or not, but it's almost like triple tone in my ear and I can't hear anything. So I'll dip off, see if I can.
Okay, yeah, we'll call you right back. But big man, why don't you take over? Michigan State. Any betting thoughts here?
Yeah, on Monday, Drew, you and I talked about this one, you, me, and Ed
Mhm.
Fag. And look, I thought the total would be 45 and it just stick there. It's down to 41.5. A lot of money coming in on the under. And look, a lot of people thinking, low scoring, two good defenses. Michigan might be the best defense in the country. But I'll tell you what. Here's something that I will tell you. I think we see the teams chucking the ball around. Michigan State. I got a lot of flack for saying Brian Lewerke's a good quarterback. I'm not sure if he's a great quarterback, but he's better than what Michigan saw last week. Hornibrook couldn't move the ball at all. I'm not ready to lay 7 points in a row with Michigan either. I mean, it's no secret that when this team goes on the road, they don't play too well. Michigan State is a team that has some renewed confidence after the win last week. They're a pretty solid team. They have a good defense. You can't really run on them. This game just seems close to me. Michigan's really good, and I think the goal for this group going forward is just win games. I think they've proven that they're back in the picture. They just can't afford a letdown. You can't. It can't happen this year for Jim Harbaugh. You have to win these games. You have to make sure that Ohio State game means something at the end. Um, I'm just not ready to throw a full touchdown out there. Gun to my head, I'm taking Michigan State. This is a very tough game to wager on. Over under seems a bit low as well. These Big Ten games tend to find their way over the number late. Um, I'll lean over and I'll lean Michigan State.
Yeah, 41 in a college football game, man. It can get there almost by accident, with some special
Yeah.
teams and defensive scores. So you got to watch out going under here. Ian, not sure, how the sound is in everything, but you want to go with Michigan State thoughts real quick?
Yeah, big win for Michigan State last week against the Penn State Nittany Lions, and the overvalued, overrated, poorly coached, as far as I'm concerned, James Franklin-led Penn State team. Good win for Michigan State, but can you bounce back now back home against Michigan? Another big opponent here. I think Michigan is the better team. I certainly like the way Shea Patterson keeps playing better on a weekly basis with this Wolverines offense. They can run the football. They got a great group of running backs. We know the defense is very good. This total is very low, though. I understand it should be low scoring, but 41.5 is very low for a college football game. I'm actually going to lean Michigan here a little bit. I'm not probably going to have a significant play on it, and I know their road record is very dubious. I mean, you look at Northwestern; they escaped with a 2017 win. Last Notre Dame, they lose it on the road this year. Last year, you look at their road results; nothing really overly impressive. But I'm still not a big fan of what I've seen mostly this season from Michigan State. I mean, Central Michigan was an unimpressive win at home. You had a bad performance at home against Northwestern. You beat a Penn State team that may be still moping and down in the dumps from the Ohio State loss. This is going to be a real tough challenge for Michigan State. Lean Michigan, but yeah, laying 7. I'll find better bets than this one.
All right, and want to apologize everyone for the sound. Obviously, Skype is kind of not liking us today. People hopping off, hopping on, and the sound in and out. But big man, I did want to come back to you because you got a good connection. Um, you bring up the fact of the over under looking bad or looking low. And with Michigan, their quarterback situation expanding the offense, like I was talking about. I have Michigan pegged as a bet on. Do you also think that Michigan going forward, including this week, could be an over team going forward?
Yeah, I definitely think they can be. I mean, you look at their games. I mean, a lot have went over. I mean, the last 6 games they've went over in 4 of them, I believe. So, and again, a lot of that's due with the level of opponent they're playing. They're just putting a lot of points on the board. I just look at it from a standpoint of like I don't think Michigan State's great stopping the pass. So I think that'd be the goal, be to attack them. I've just found with some of these Big Ten games, these dead net unders, they find their way over. I mean, there's been some tough beats with those this year, just with the big runs and things like that. College football is very difficult to go under a number at this point. You have a clock stoppage every first down. There's just a lot of stoppages, and obviously incomplete passes, and that's always norm throughout football. But yeah, I would probably say they are. I mean, Shea Patterson started to open up the offense a bit more, I guess you could say, and look, I think Lewerke, I mean, they've had some trouble at times running the ball this year. Look, we know against Michigan they're not going to have a ton of success there. I think Lewerke's been decent. We know he's going to sling it around. If he's good, I don't know, but he's better than what Hornibrook was. They should have a bit more success through the air. We saw last week it worked for them. I kind of look at the game 2 years ago and look at that as kind of a decent scoreline. Gets into the 50s maybe. The big move down is something I thought we may see, but I didn't know if we would. Yeah, I would say they are.
All right, good breakdown there, guys, on the Big Ten game. We got Degenerate Special coming up. Do want to read out one comment here from Doug's. Told my supervisor I had a meeting from 10 to 11. Thanks, Doug's, for joining
Yeah,
us
meeting
here.
with the Roundtable.
Yeah, I guess it's not a lie. Good stuff. Thanks for letting us know that. Guys, Degenerate Special here. Late night action. Midnight on Saturday. Nevada at Hawaii. We got 68.5 the total. Hawaii laying 3 at home. And a couple things here. You know, Nevada's played a lot of their games really close, either losing or winning. They played Boise close, which makes me think, you know, going against this Hawaii team, kind of a step down in talent anyway. They should bode well. Also, combine that with the fact Cole McDonald last week against BYU, he didn't look that good. It's almost like, you know, coming back off an injury. Is he still injured? They got pretty much steamrolled by BYU talent-wise. So a couple things have me pointing towards Nevada in this one. Big man, I know you know both of these two teams very well. You agree with me? You think Wolfpack's the side here?
Yeah, I've actually been quite impressed with them lately. I mean, they've really did some good things on offense. Obviously, we know they have a high level quarterback, but I'm looking at this game and I'm not going to really overthink this one. Donnie Rightside had an over a few weeks ago with Toledo. Went way over the number with Nevada. And look, I got to be honest, I don't know if we see anything different here. I mean, both these offenses are just throw it, run and gun, you know, score a lot of points. You know, I think a lot of the reason that Cole McDonald struggled last week was the fact that he was playing Brigham Young. They are a pretty good defense. That's something that they generally do well against. It was on the road, I believe, as well. So, you know, you got to kind of figure that in. But with Ganji, Nevada, 30th in the country throwing the football. I mean, they're averaging over 7 yards an attempt. I like this team. I like both these teams. Neither defense are particularly good either. Hawaii really struggles. I mean, this team gave up a lot of points to Duquesne and teams like that. So for me, 68 seems like a fair number. I'll look over the number, but I do like Nevada. This should be fun. Two real good quarterbacks here. Should be go back dueling.
Yeah, this will be a fun one to end the Saturday night with. Donnie, what about you? You looking to bet Hawaii, Nevada?
This football game should be let me just turn this down. This football game should be pretty interesting here when you look at it because a couple banged up quarterbacks coming in over the past couple weeks. You know, Ganji misses a game with the leg injury. It looks like Nevada can't even move the football. Then you see Cole McDonald in that football game who didn't play versus Wyoming at home. They were wretched on offense as well. But Jeff is right. You can always lean on these two teams on defense being horrible out there, which is going to lend itself to an over. If Ganji is healthy, they'll move the football. Cole McDonald is healthy for Hawaii, they will move the football. Looking at a pretty staunch over-under at 70, so you're going to have to get some points up and down, but there's no reason to believe that if both of these quarterbacks come in healthy here, that these teams can play into the 30s. I think Jeff's right on this one. I really wouldn't be looking to be under unless it's one of those Hawaii nights where it's 25-mile-an-hour winds out there at the stadium and maybe a little bit of rain. Outside of that, both these football teams should move the ball easily. 70 looks like it's a dual there.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of Donnie, you know, as we get here to mid-October games and starting to look towards November, remember to look at the weather. It's going to start affecting some of these college football games depending on what part of the country it's played. Ian, what about you? Nevada, Hawaii, any betting thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun late night game. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. Give Nevada credit last week against Boise State, battled a good Broncos team, 31-27. Tyke Angie moved the ball against that Boise State defense. It was very, very impressive to see that. Hawaii's defense got absolutely torched last week by BYU, but you have to wonder, was it Hawaii's defense being bad, or was it maybe a recharge of the batteries for the BYU offense? They went to a new quarterback, they sped up the tempo, and boy, it really gave Hawaii fits in that game, 49-23. They take apart the Warriors. Yeah, Cole McDonald didn't look himself in that game, but the BYU defense is still capable of doing that from time to time. I know they've had some games where they've been shredded, like at Utah State, but last week was a struggle for McDonald. I think he's going to be healthier. They're back home. Hawaii is 4 straight up at home. They're a very, very good team on this home field so far this season. I'm very reluctant to go against them, but I'm probably inclined to agree with Big Man's opinion on this game. I'm thinking we're going to see points. We'll probably get this game up and over the total.
All right, good stuff, guys. We can go right to the NFL card. Donna, we got to get you in here a little more. We got Carolina, Philadelphia, two Philadelphia guys on the show. 45.5 the total. Philly -5 at home. Defending Super Bowl champions here, Donnie, hosting Cam Newton and company. You looking to lay the 5 with your boys?
Yeah, I'm Drew. I apologize, man. I can't really hear you that well at this point now. So like I'm trying to read some lips on there to see what is this still college we're doing?
Ah, man. Carolina, Philadelphia. NFL.
Yeah, dude. I'm
All
I'm
right, all
gonna
right.
I'm gonna dip off here. I'll dip off here. We'll see if we can get this worked out.
All right, buddy. Big man. We'll come to the other Philadelphia guy. We got Carolina, Philadelphia, 45.5. Philadelphia -5. How you looking about it?
Yeah, real quick, Drew. Someone's on the chat talking about that Nevada is not going to play well in humidity. Listen, guys, I think we're reaching for ways to bet games. I mean, look, it's 80 degrees in Hawaii. I don't think the humidity is going to be a huge problem. Look, I'm not comparing me to any Nevada football player, but like I've grown up in Philadelphia. It gets very humid here. I went to Las Vegas in August. It was just as hot to me. It didn't really mean much. I know it's not as humid there, and I get that, but I think sometimes we're looking a little too hard into these games. I don't know about Ian, but or you, Drew, but I don't know if that's a huge reason to not bet. I mean, it's not overly hot in Hawaii either. I mean, it's dewy air. I mean, it's 70% humidity, but I don't know. I don't see that that's a huge problem here. But again, if it is for you, I get it. Okay, listen, D-type. I know humidity is a real thing. I get that, but I just don't think I don't think it's that big a deal. But if it is for you, I get you. Uh, so yeah, Carolina, Philly. I think it's a good spot for the Eagles. I mean, the schedule makers aren't doing the Panthers any credit here. Two straight road games against decent teams. Eagles back at home. They've been very good under Doug Peterson. Only I think 5 losses since Doug started coaching there. Um, I'm not in love right now with the Panthers. The offense is very inconsistent. The question is, have the Eagles turned a corner? Very dominating, easy win last week. They're still elephants in the room with this team, though. The offensive line's not great. I think Lane Johnson's hurt. Jason Peters has been hurt. Has the secondary turned a corner? Jalen Mills had a pretty good game last week, but I don't know if that's something long term. Cam Newton always gives them problems. I think this is a fair number. I would lean if it's 4.5. I'm taking the Eagles. 5, you're starting to get up to that no man's land. The Eagles have been very dominant at home, under Doug, as I said, but um, you know Carolina lost to them last year. Carolina's probably licked their chops to face them this year, being the Super Bowl champs and everything. The problem for me, though, has always been Carolina's back end defensively. I don't know how good they are. They do get Thomas Davis back last week, so that's obviously help up front. Should be a good game. Should be, decent defensive game as far as both lines should be able to get some pressure, but it's hard to go against the Eagles at home, Drew.
Yeah, I agree with you. But you got Cam Newton coming in. He can make some plays. You never know. Ian, what do you think?
I'm not a big fan of this Carolina team, to be honest. There's not a lot I've liked. There's not a lot of consistency in their game. They're like the NFL, a week-to-week league. Well, that's Carolina, a week-to-week team. One week they look good, one week they look not so good. And last week against Washington, I know they came back, made it close. They actually were driving to take the lead and maybe win that game late, but their defense really got shredded to an extent by Alex Smith, Redskins. I thought Cam Newton was horrible down by the red zone throughout that game. He was not accurate at all on the football, and that's a problem. We saw the Eagles, remember, in the very first game of the season against Atlanta, they held Matt Ryan out of the end zone with the game on the line and made him throw inaccurate passes in the red zone. So something tells me they might be able to make Cam Newton suffer that same fate because he was just not very accurate throwing that football. It's also their second straight road game in a row, which is a little bit of a dubious spot here for this Carolina team. Philadelphia now back on track. That's the big question. They beat the Giants. I'm not sure if that's enough of evidence right there to show that they're back on track, but it's a good win at least. They have the extra time because they played Thursday night last week in that game against the Giants. I'm leaning Eagles, but I'm kind of thinking this number's right where it should be. I don't want Carolina That's for sure. If I'm betting this game, Philly or pass.
And we got Randy in the chat saying Carolina to cover, not win. We also got Brad saying Bears 4 straight weeks against the AFC East. That is kind of weird. Anybody else in the chat box, let us know what you want to hear about games, college football or NFL. We might have some time at the end to talk about it. But Big Man, I want to ask you a question about what Ian just said about Cam Newton not looking good at the end of the game in the red zone. I noticed that as well. I was watching that live. And I noticed he just doesn't have a lot of time to throw. So if he's not scrambling around finding an open area, the D line was just all over him. You think Philadelphia is going to make that happen again this week?
Yeah, I mean, you would figure it would. I mean, there's been some skepticism around here with the pass rush. I mean, for some reason, they haven't been getting there. They did a bit better of a job against the Giants. Look, you're playing with fire. They're starting to get healthy again. Derek Barnett had been injured. Haloti Nada's been out. Kind of those big boys in the middle. Michael Bennett's had a good year. This defensive line just getting ready to really roll, I think. Fletcher Cox, terrific as well. Brandon Graham. They have plenty of options. I mean, both offensive lines for these teams aren't particularly good. So yeah, I think both. I think that's where this game could be fun. You could see some great. But again, it also opens it up though. Will that lead to penalties as well? Because that's what we have to talk about now, Drew. Unfortunately, we can't talk about good defensive line play and sacks and stuff because a lot of them are resulting in penalties anyway. So that's what really is take the fun out of the NFL, frankly. But actually, it's funny. Carolina is actually a bit better than average in the red zone. Lately, though, you do look at them; their numbers are down a bit. They were I think, they only scored 33% of the time in that last game, which is obviously way under their average number. But you would expect that to get better. Carolina usually plays the Eagles tight. Just to kind of point that out, last year's game came down to the wire. But here's the thing, Drew. Last year was different. Eagles won those kind of games. This year, maybe not so. Okay, they lost to Tennessee, a game that they probably should have won. They've had the options this year. Some of these games haven't went their way though, so that could be something you throw in. I mean, I'll be honest. At 5, it's hard to not take the Carolina Panthers. These games are generally close, but like I know Donnie Wright said, he's told me that he loves the Eagles in this game. So, it's a real tough one.
I
Yeah, you
wanted to say
mentioned in
one
the
thing
chat.
about.
Go ahead, Ian.
No, I was just going to say I want to say one thing about Cam Newton's red zone struggles, particularly last week. We have to keep in mind a lot of it was on him. A lot of it too, though, is this is not great wide receiver talent that this Carolina team has. I mean, Devin Funchess, an aging Torrey Smith, Jarius Wright. I mean, that's not a a great big time wideout talent in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. You give Cam Newton the Rams talent, Jared Goff has to work on a weekly basis, then maybe we'll see what he does with some of these weapons in the red zone. So yeah, he didn't perform well in the red zone. Wasn't accurate with the ball. Just made bad decisions. But he has a very, very thin, not overly impressive wide receiver group there in Carolina. And you just got to wonder if he had better talent at that spot. Maybe he'd have some more success in big time red zone situations like that.
We also got Joey in the chat box saying, need to know if Newton is on his period. And it brings up a thought Donnie said a couple weeks ago. You want the Cam Newton, if you're betting on him, with the towel around his neck, running up and down the sideline, not the Cam Newton with the towel over his head where he's sitting on the bench, because that usually doesn't end well when you're betting on that Cam Newton. Guys, let's move down. We got another NFL game here. New Orleans at Baltimore, 49.5 the total. Looks like Baltimore -2.5 at home, hovering around this key 3 number. Big man, New Orleans, Drew Brees versus Baltimore. That defense, what do you think, man? How are you looking about it?
I'm actually looking towards the Baltimore Ravens in this game. I like this team a lot. I'm a big fan of Baltimore. I think they're a team to really look out for going forward. You look at what these teams are going to do. The Saints are really good against the run. They're actually the best rushing defense in the league, stat-wise. But I think we all know the elephant in the room is they can't stop anybody through the air. I think that'll obviously make Joe Flacco kind of happy here. But they went out and got a lot more receivers. This is a team that is 30th in the league against the pass, the Saints. I'd expect Joe Flacco to attack them kind of through the air. They're at home here. Look, Baltimore's a terrific defense, as we know. Probably the best in the league, if not in the top three. One of the best passing defenses, very good against the run. I mean, they're only giving up 188 yards a game. This is going to be a big test. You have one of the best passers ever. I mean, what did he just didn't he just pass and
Peyton
have the
Manning.
most yards ever? Yeah. I mean, he's a terrific passer, but I don't. It's just not as dynamic outside of the dome. I look at the Ravens here, and I think this is kind of that AFC NFC matchup. I like what I've seen from Baltimore. They've actually covered 5 of 6 as a home favorite of 3 points or less. They're winning these close games. This is going to be a big test for this defense. But I think throughout the league, they've obviously looked the best. I mean, this team, 12.8 points a game is impressive stuff. But we've seen, I mean, this New Orleans team's been able to go on the road and win games. I thought that Giant game a few weeks ago was maybe a chopping block kind of game because it wasn't in a dome, it was outdoors. And that's just kind of one thing I don't like to bet on with the Saints, but they've actually been a pretty decent bet on the road. I don't know. I think they struggle to stop Baltimore just because if you're going against the Raven or against the Saints, you want to throw the ball. You know they can't stop it. I think this is why you brought in the receivers you did. I'll go Baltimore 4-2 against the spread this year. I think at home they're a pretty decent play.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting thought, and it's a good handicapping something to break down as far as New Orleans playing outside of the dome. But they have won a couple games on the road because that's an angle I would actually look to kind of fade them. So it's interesting to kind of break that down and see how that would go going forward. Ian, do you have anything on that, like looking to bet against New Orleans on the road, and also your overall thoughts on New Orleans versus Baltimore?
When it comes to New Orleans on the road, I find cold weather and/or grass outdoors. That's where they struggle a little more. Because keep in mind, you're going to have situations where the Saints are on the road in a dome. You play at Minnesota, or they play at Atlanta, or they play at a place inside. And I downgrade the negative effect that playing on the road will have on the Saints. They're indoors as opposed to outdoors and on grass. This year, they've actually won one of each. They won indoors at Atlanta. They won at the New York Giants, 33-18. Now, to me, the Giant game was not overly impressive. Really didn't put that game away until really late. We know the Giants are a very bad football team right now. But the one thing I do want to point out, we talk about teams off the bye and how usually that's a great spot for those teams. It hasn't been for Sean Payton over the years. He's not been one of the coaches, one of the better track records off the bye week in recent seasons. Saints have struggled in certain spots, more spots than not, off a bye. So that would be a little bit of a concern. You have the hoopla surrounding Breeze and that big record-shattering night you had on that Monday night game against the Redskins. Now you've been off for a while. It is a concerning spot for New Orleans. And I actually cashed Baltimore last week against Tennessee. I mean, if anybody watched that game, the Ravens defense and that defensive front, they treated Marcus Mariota like a human whoopee cushion. I mean, they just crushed all day long. They were really just absolutely destroying the pocket, blowing it up. 12 sacks as a team in that game against Tennessee. Remarkable stuff. They just blew up the line of scrimmage time and time again. Domination in a 1-0 game. They're back home, a decent home team for the years. Again, they're at a reasonable price here. And I do have concerns with the Saints defensively from injury standpoint. Even after the bye, the linebacker, he's had a good season. Marshawn Lattimore, the secondary, is questionable to suit up in this football game as well. So I'm looking at this as below 3. If I can get below 3, and I still can, I'd have to lean toward the Ravens side. The Saints off a bye track record have been spotty, and I just get concerned with these defensive injuries. And now their offense, for as good as it's been, going to be facing a team that's going to be able to collapse the pocket like they have seen at this point of the season.
Guys, I want to apologize again for the sound. Not sure if it's Skype or YouTube. Somebody in the chat was saying YouTube.
Wow.
It is a little
voice.
bit. I mean, yeah, not as bad as Donnie's was, but yeah, just not sure if it's YouTube. Somebody in the chat box was saying YouTube was having problems, so it might be that. Big man, do you know what's going on?
Yeah, YouTube was down last night. I mean, for about 2 hours or so. It ended up getting back on about 10:30 p.m. Eastern. But this, I believe, is a Skype issue. It sounds like his sound. It's just choppy, maybe. Real quick, if I could just comment one more thing on this game, the Baltimore Ravens are dominant defensively, as people know. But you look at the numbers. I mean, you look at everyone else in the league, Drew. The Dallas Cowboys are the second best scoring defense, giving up 17 points a game. Baltimore's giving up 12.8 points a game. That's almost 5 points less. And you look at opponents' yards per game. I mean, Baltimore's better by about 35 yards a game, actually 37. This team has been very good. This is going to be a big test. If they can pass this one, I think, obviously we don't we know Baltimore are very good defensively, but this team has been so good for a long time that it's quite amazing how terrific they've been on defense. And you look at the numbers; they've been pretty dominant throughout the league.
No, good. I mean, you make some good points there. I mean, I guess we just went through all the games, not having Donnie here. We got a couple minutes to kind of go whatever way you guys want to go. We do want to throw out best bets, and then big man, I know you always got something on your head, on the top of your mind. Always, we have this Skype chat about what the topics are going to be before. Big man's always responding. Good stuff, usually, just different ideas. What's at the top of your mind? Something you wanted to bring up on the roundtable for the last couple of weeks, man?
Wow. Yeah, look, I'm always an open book. I'll talk about anything. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things going on, but look, again, right now for me, I'm very mixed in with college basketball. I mean, that's really been my focal point, over the last little bit of time. Like my free time has been involved with that. I spend a lot of time at night doing, I think for me doing like previews and just kind of saying it and hearing it again is really, for me, good for retention. So I've been doing a lot of that stuff, just kind of preparing for the season. But no, I think it's always good to maybe talk about bet on teams, bet against teams, that kind of thing. But Drew, I think you are you're a rising star at SBR. You've elevated your profile. You're doing your thing, and I just go where the money is, and you've detailed what we're doing every day. So I just follow the rules.
Okay. Well, no, we want to open it up. I appreciate you saying that. You're a rising star as well as and Ian Cameron. All right,
Well,
college
Drew, I'm not
basketball.
well, Drew, I am a star. I don't. I'm not no
Yeah,
rising star. We're all stars here.
obviously.
I just wanted to be, nice, and just say you're maybe rising,
Five,
but no, you're a star.
5 digits in terms of Twitter followers, man, it's a hell of a rise for you. Big man, I do want to ask you a handicapping question about college basketball because it's something I've noticed. Usually in college football, I tend to bet more money in the first maybe 8 weeks of the season, whereas college basketball, the last 3 years, I've gotten off to actually negative starts and then rebounded the last 2 years having positive full seasons. It's not a sport where I rush into betting in November. It's more I ease into betting in December and January are kind of the months where I really get after it. Do you notice that with college basketball, or do you rush in and try to take advantage of kind of a inefficient market?
Yeah, I've heard that before. I think there are people that I know, like Donnie does that. He doesn't bet even non-conference, but no, I do. I prefer non-conference over conference play. For me, that's kind of where I like to shine because I know a lot of the teams, these smaller teams that are playing and kind of what their ceilings are and what they can do and where they're weak. And I think for the ball markets in college basketball, there are so many teams, and really initially, a lot of these numbers that are being thrown out are just speculative. They're power rank numbers. They're just you're guessing a lot of the time. It's
Right,
virtually Drew impossible to know, especially even line makers, to know like some of these teams. Like there's two new teams coming into Division One this year. How do you
right,
price them? Some of these teams, and the personnel is important. It's kind of like any of these small mid majors. You lose one player from last year, and you're gonna be under real issue. So yeah, I prefer it. I like, I've talked before. I've often used this Powers Five against SWAC angle. There's a angle that I found that Power Five teams against the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Your Texas Southerns, your Gramblings, your Alabama A&Ms. I've almost exclusively in every situation I find with that bet on the favorite, regardless of the number. I've laid 35 in those games. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Those teams are the bottom of the barrel in this college basketball thing, and that's an avenue that's worked for me. But no, I actually bet the same amount, if not more, because I like betting mid majors and smaller mid majors.
and that's over the Southwestern Conference. You said the SWAC.
That's the SWAC. SWAC,
Yeah.
yes.
a perennial play-in conference. Whenever whoever wins the SWAC is always playing in that play-in game, correct?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. Usually the MAC, SWAC, and the SWAC actually got weaker because Mike Davis left Texas Southern, so they're not going to be as prolific. He went to Detroit Mercy, so it's a league that has some really weak teams in it. Probably as far as in Division One, the weakest conference around.
Okay. Well, thanks for the little college basketball roundup here. Ian, we'll come to you. Any college basketball thoughts, and also throw out your best bet for the roundtable, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to college basketball. I mean, Big Man is fantastic with it, has been for years. It's a great sport. It starts in November, runs till the end of April, end of March into April, actually, when the national championship happens. So, looking forward to it. It's always a lot of fun. There's so many teams, so many games. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be teams that look good early and bad late, and vice versa. There's going to be teams that get better as the season progresses, and teams that get worse as the season progresses. And there's going to be teams that are just an absolute disaster from start to finish. Last year, the Panthers were as one example. So looking forward to it. I'll throw out one tidbit. I know I've mentioned this to people. I've mentioned it on Twitter as well. I'm going to be targeting Georgia Bulldogs as a massive over team this season on a game-to-game basis. If you look at them, they bring in Tom Crean. They are going to speed up the tempo. They're emphasizing the three-point shot and shooting a lot more three balls this season long. If you remember Tom Crean's team back in Indiana, they weren't particularly good defensively either. It's almost like they sacrificed defense at expense of the offense. We won't guard. We won't actually do a good job contesting shots. We won't concern ourselves as much with that end of the basketball court. And I'm just worried that all of this great defensive play we've seen from Georgia in the Mark Fox era is going to get eroded with Tom Crean there, and it's speed it up, offensive minded, and maybe early in the season you can capitalize on Georgia this plotting team, slow the shot clock down, that try to feed the low post with Peyton in recent seasons, and take advantage of this change in philosophy early on and look for the total game to game with Georgia. Certainly something I'll be looking to do this season early on in TV.
Okay, Ian, let's just get a best bet from you real quick. The sound was kind of breaking up, man.
Oh, geez. What else is new there? Yeah, best bet. How about this is a bit of a stunner, but I like it a lot. Purdue Boilermakers plus the 2 touchdowns against mighty Ohio State. I'm liking what I'm seeing from this Purdue team right now. Think Ohio State got this kind of situation in them where they can be a little bit disinterested. They were a little bit flat last week in Minnesota. I was not impressed with the way they played in that football game. I think Purdue is really starting to take off since they honed in on making David Blau the starting quarterback. There's no quarterback controversy anymore. I think it is definitely Purdue at home with a big effort. I think Ohio State's defense is going to struggle just a little bit here in this game against Purdue offense, the way they played. Purdue defense getting stops against passes is a concern, no question. But again, they can hang, they can compete, they can catch Ohio State and be a little disinterested here on the road and get inside 2 touchdowns. I think Purdue bet on. They're no ATS their last games. Ohio State over ATS their last game. Overvalued.
Big man, what did we get him at? Purdue plus 14?
I
Yes.
believe, yes. Thanks,
Okay.
Ian.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Ian. You can follow Ian on Twitter at Babano. He's on Purdue plus 14. Jeff, follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Big man on campus. What do you got for best bets, man?
Yeah, real quick with his comment on Georgia. Yeah, I agree. I think that's what they're definitely going to do. The problem is, do they have the shooters to do that? That's kind of the problem. You can run a triple option, but do you have the players that are good enough to be effective running it? Tom Crean is a bit of a madman. He doesn't ever care about defense. That'll be interesting to see down there. As far as the bet I'm going to make, I'm going to go with I'm going to kind of just stick with what I think makes sense here. 327, 328. I'm going to go over the number. Coastal Carolina, UMass. Numbers down to 71. There was an odd situation last week. Kilton Anderson for Coastal didn't play, yet was suited up. All indications are he's healthy and okay. Listen, I don't know that it matters, though, because UMass are so bad on defense. that I think Carpenter can move the ball against them as well. Both these teams are just dreadful on defense. UMass are historically bad. I just don't see a situation where this isn't a lot like the UMass Ohio game. Both these teams love to move the ball through the air, love to UMass 811 passing yards over the last 2 games. They're going to attack Coastal through the air. I just think this is a high scoring football game. It's only 71 right now. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the highest scoring game on the board on Saturday. And look, frankly, I'm going to go with that because when Ohio and UMass played, I said that would be the highest scoring game on the board, and it was. I'm not going to go with what's not broke.
Yeah, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Great thing in this business. So Coastal Carolina, UMass over 71. I'm going to go back to the well here with 357 Georgia Southern. I'm going to lay the 12 on the road. Georgia Southern did not show well last week. I was on them. And just going to lay the number here because I think New Mexico State is just going to get kind of ran over. Their defense, I doubt, can hold up against this triple option attack from Georgia Southern. And when you can't stop it in the first quarter, you're going to have trouble stopping it in the second half. So the number doesn't scare me as much, being just minus 12 right now, Georgia Southern on the road. So we got Ian Cameron, Purdue plus 14. Big man on campus, 327. Coastal Carolina, UMass over 71. And I am on 357 Georgia Southern minus 12, which you can get at Bookmaker right now. For Ian Cameron, Jeff Nadeau, I'm Drew Martin. Sorry about the sound issues, guys, but we will be back next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern. So please come back with us. Hopefully sound issues are fixed and we have a good week. 2-1 or 3-0 best bets. Best of luck with your bets. See you next week, guys.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.